having overcome all odds in her triumph of the soul plane, finally returned home. However, Kuon was not what she once was. Her desire to return home had become nothing but a primal urge after countless deaths and assimilated soul. She had no idea who she was, no idea why she wanted to return here, no idea who the person that stood before her was. Her memories were all but gone. All that remained were the violent instincts cultivated through her battles in the soul plane. And thus, giving in to those instincts, Kuon devoured the prey before her. Kuon, having overcome all odds in her triumph of the soul plane, finally returned home. However, her supposed owner could only scream in terror upon laying eyes on her. Kuon's battles had transformed her into something different. In the eyes of her owner, she was nothing more than a monster now. What's more, this monster lacked the means to prove that it was once the adorable feline that her owner once treasured. The bond between owner and pet had been severed. This was no longer a place Kuon could call home. And thus, Kuon chose to disappear, leaving naught but a trace. Kuon, having overcome all odds in her triumph of the soul plane, finally returned home. However, several decades had already passed upon Kuon's return to the real world. Perhaps the flow of time was different between the soul plane and the real world. Perhaps it was the warped influence of chaos betwixt. Regardless of the cause, Kuon's owner had long since passed away. No trace of the house they shared remained. Kuon no longer had a place to call home. None can say how much time passed afterward. But one day, after visiting her owner's grave, Kuon disappeared with naught but a trace. Kuon, having overcome all odds in her triumph of the soul plane, finally returned home. Yet the strain from her many battles had proven too much. Her body was lost as a result. Only her soul remained upon returning. A soul alone cannot persist long in the real world. It was only a matter of time before it disappeared entirely. That is, until a strange turn of events took place. Kuon's fading soul was drawn into the womb of a cat whose kitten had passed away before birth. But will the kitten born after this truly be Kuon? Will fate ever lead her to her former owner? No one can know for sure.
Creature, Not quite human, but not quite feline, sleeps in her usual spot. Kuan was finally home. At first, her owner couldn't help but be intimidated by what had appeared before her. It didn't take long for her to notice, though, both the similarities to Kuan's original form and the familiar objects that she possessed. Her pet had returned from the dead, albeit in a strange form. Something worth celebrating, but also a bit terrifying. And thus, in spite of her new form, Kuan returned to her regular life at home. All is well that ends well, perhaps. Her owner, though still somewhat perplexed at the situation, now lived with her not-so-feline friend once again. And so, at the end of a journey filled with both strife and hope, regardless of the circumstances, one life has begun anew. Welcome home, Kuan, I guess? Meow. Familiar scenery greets Kuan as she comes to. A simple survey of her surroundings is all she manages before a yawn lulls her back to sleep. It was as if she was never gone in the first place. Footsteps, ever so familiar, ring from outside the room. Footsteps Kuan knows, but feigns not to. Her owner has returned home. The footsteps stop for just a moment before rushing even closer. Kuan, however, keeps the act up. Things are as they should be. Kuan remains the same cat she always was. At the end of a journey filled with both strife and hope, one life has begun anew. Welcome home, Kuan.
With Claudius triumphed and the Soul Plane conquered, Kuan had finally made it back home. Unbeknownst to Kuan, however, the boundary remained ripped open even after her arrival back in the real world.